Going. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Shelter Animal Reiki Association free Zoom session where we talk about all things animal Reiki. And today we are going to talk about Reiki in the shelter, animal Reiki in the shelter, and what that looks like and what that means. So I have experience with shelter, but Kelly, Kelly McDermott Burns, who is joining us, she actually is the Shelter Animal Reiki Association director. She is our East Coast director, but she's actually a director for the entire United States. So if you want support or you need mentoring, Kelly's always our go-to person. But the reason I invited Kelly on to talk is because Kelly has just years, decades actually, experience of offering Reiki in the shelter to animals. And she knows all the ins and outs. And in fact, Kelly, I think you have like 6 shelters, don't you, that have joined SARA?
Yeah, quite a few. I go to one specifically. Well, actually, one in a shelter and a sanctuary. But there are several SARA members that go to another one up in Middlebury, Vermont, a little north of me. Beth Beecham and Judy Holmes both go there. And so, yeah, there's 4 or 5 practitioners going into that one. So I'm pretty much on my own at Rutland. But yeah, I've had I think another 3 or 4 join. One in the meantime closed over COVID. It was a horse sanctuary, closed over COVID, but the rest of them are still members.
Nice. And so what I was hoping Kelly could help all of us with, because we all have this issue, is, first of all, what does animal Reiki in the shelter look like? And I'm gonna mute everybody, and then Kelly, I'm gonna make you co-host so that
Okay.
you are not muted. Let's just 1 second, sorry. I will make you co-host. And so you should be able to unmute Kelly. So yeah, so we're here to talk to Kelly about, just get her input on how she got started offering animal Reiki in the shelters and some of the successes that she has experienced, and then some of the trials that she's experienced. Because I know that all of us are here and we want to know, because one of the best things you can do is share Reiki with shelter animals. I mean, it's why we have the Shelter Animal Reiki Association. When Kathleen started that, that was her desire to bring animal Reiki to all shelter animals. When she was first getting started with animal Reiki, she was in the shelter in Berkeley at the Berkeley Animal Control. And they were so welcoming and supportive of her doing Reiki there. So that's where she started. But I wanted Kelly to come in because it's been a while since I've actually been in the shelter consistently. Hey, Olive, so good to see you. Since I've been in the shelter consistently, and Ed Kelly is just, like I said, a wealth of information. So Kelly, I'm going to kind of do a Q&A with you a little bit, but first of all, why don't you, so we've known each other since, I don't know, since 2008, I think.
Or
I think
9.
when we started SARA. And you had already studied with Kathleen. So when did you learn animal Reiki?
So yeah, I took Kathleen's 2008. But I started earlier with the correspondence course back when everything was through email. And so I started because I already practiced Reiki. I was a Reiki teacher level in the Western tradition. And then I went and got my teacher training in the traditional Japanese. And that's actually through Kathleen's information and help. But I was already practicing Reiki, and I really was wondering. I love animals. I always have as a kid. I always had stuffed animals instead of dolls, that sort of thing. And so I thought, well, there's got to be, maybe there's some information out there about working with Reiki and animals. And I went online and looked it up, and Kathleen's Animal Reiki book hadn't come out yet, but it was about to. So I got that as soon as it came out and read it, and I'm like, got to study with this woman. So I spent practically my last dollar going out to California to Bright Haven to take her teacher training out there. And after I had done the correspondence course, so yeah, that was 2008 when I took that class, and really, and Kathleen was talking about SARA at the time. I think she had just had a class with you, Leah, and you guys had been talking about it in that class, and then I was the following class. And so she, had mentioned it during the class, and I was all in, although I had a lot of hesitation, not a lot, but I was like, not sure I can handle it. I'm worried about, will I be able to go into a shelter and work with the animals?
Yeah.
I'm nervous about that. Can I emotionally handle it? So I remember saying something like that to Kathleen, that I really was interested in being a member of SARA, or getting this off the ground. And I just had that one that one hesitation. And she said, well, if we're not doing it, who's going to do it?
Yep.
Never forgot that. And I say that now to students too. It just is so true. And when we're doing our practice, when we're really working with the precepts, doing our grounding, and being able to, and keeping ourselves in, good energetic condition, we can do it. It's not always easy. There are some days I come home, just driving home crying in the car, and other days I can see the same sort of thing and not really be in that space. So a lot of it has to do with how much we're working on our grounding, and working on our energy and doing our practices for ourselves. So it really, that's why it's so important for us to do our traditional Japanese Reiki techniques, as we talk about in the 6 pillars, because those are what help us to be able to sit with an animal who might be getting ready to pass, or who's in shabby condition, or was left tied up at the fence, or those sort of things that can be heartbreaking. But if we're doing our practice, we can move through it with grace.
Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things that our practice, like you said, gives us, right? And I remember when Kathleen, when I went through the same thing as you. How can I do this? Because I literally couldn't go into the shelter without crying. It wasn't going to happen. And I thought, there's no way I can do this. But it was like Kelly, it was my desire to help the animals that needed it most. So what Kathleen said to me was, just like what you just said, focus on the precepts. Focus on the precepts and don't worry. And also she said, which I thought was really great advice, you can't take them home. So no matter how upset you are and how much you want to help, you can't take them home. So just, do the precepts, know that you can't take them home, and know that what you are offering is life-changing, right? What you're offering is going to help them. And I thought that was such great advice, and I really appreciate it. And it was true. I would feel really overwhelmed, but once I got in there and you realize, okay, I can't take any of these animals home. So now you kind of have a different mindset. You change that mindset and you're like, okay, I can't take them all home, but I can actually sit and be with them and offer them this beautiful light, this beautiful space. And that's healing. And another thing too, that really helped, I think, my confidence, and I know this happens with you, Kelly, is that the more I went in there weekly, that people would notice that the animals were calmer with me. And so even they called it Reiki. Like they would say, can you just
yeah, nobody ever says it right.
And they would call it Reiki, but they could see the difference in the animals. Now they may not have seen, and Kelly, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but they may not see the huge results that you see. And it's really funny. I talked to you guys about, at Best Friends when Kathleen and I went, and that cat went from literally almost dead to up in the rafters looking so alive. And they're just like, yeah, nobody even gives credit to that, but that's okay. It's fine. What we know is the animal benefited. So Kelly, I would love to share. So you're very nervous and you're going to a shelter. How did you get started? Like how did you present yourself?
So, I can't remember if I actually made an appointment. I think I made an appointment, and I just emailed the shelter director and said, this is what I do, and I'd like to come in and talk to you about it, and talk to you about volunteering. So I don't know whether she kind of thought, well, we got to have another volunteer here or what. Excuse me. But as it turned out, the actual executive director, was on maternity leave, and her assistant was filling in for her. And so I actually met with her, and funny side note is that the actual director left there and is now at Homeward Bound, where we have a big, 5 or 6 people going and doing Reiki. And the woman who I met with is the director at Rutland now. So those 2 gals are still in the mix. But I met with Beth, and she always had her dogs with her. And so we went in the office, and so I talked to her about what I did, and I said, it's kind of, probably, paraphrasing, but I probably said to her something like, it's probably hard to understand, but would you like to have a little chair Reiki? And I'll just, put my hands on your head and shoulders, and you'll be able to see what I do and maybe feel how it might feel for the animals. So she agreed to that. And we did the little chair Reiki session, and her dog was just like crashed on the floor, a big lab. And she's like, he's never like that. Well, he must be really enjoying the energy. And so that really was what I think won her over, was the dog's response. And she said, yeah, when do you want to come in? So we set up time for me to come in every week. And they've been so supportive to me. I've been doing it there since 2009. And they let me teach classes there. Just have to let them know when I'm doing it. And I go in once a week for a couple of hours. And so it's kind of, maybe we'll talk about, you have this on the list for later, but how, we're not there like the traditional, the best practices is 4 sessions in a row. A lot of that has to be done from home, but yeah, so that was it. And then when Jess came back from maternity leave, she was kind of like, who is this person and what is she doing? And it took me a little while to win her over, which is really funny. And in the end, she's super supportive, and, is really happy with the people volunteering up the other shelter, and had asked me a couple of times to work on specific animals, and especially one that was getting ready to be euthanized. So you're muted, sis.
I think that happens a lot. Once they get used to you, they then, even though they don't maybe understand what you're doing, they start saying, hey, could you sit with this animal? They just like the fact that we bring peace and calm, and we're not in their way. When you go do that, you want to always be out of the way. You want to be really unobtrusive, right?
Right, absolutely.
And I think that we need to make a little bit of clarification about this. So when you presented Reiki back in 2008, 2009, Reiki actually wasn't as popular as it is now. And the thing we have to be really careful about now, and also you're in Vermont, and I think that Vermont is kind of like Oregon. People are a little bit more open to the hippy dippy kind of stuff. Whereas, if you're in a more conservative state, like if you were Mississippi, for example, they may not be as open to it, or Georgia. So we have to talk about it in a way that everybody can understand. So unfortunately for us now, I don't know if all of you watch Modern Family, but in Modern Family, there was an episode where in Modern Family, there's a gay couple, and they have a little girl. And really quickly, hello, Mary Lynn. Thank you for joining us. And Melissa and Dawn, thank you so much for coming. And Liza, I don't know if I said hi to you, but thank you for coming. So in Modern Family, the gay couple, they have a daughter, and there was a big little girl dollhouse out in the backyard, playhouse. It was a princess. Well, this guy ends up living in the dollhouse, and he does Reiki. So it makes it seem like Reiki is crazy, right? So if you go, hey, I do animal Reiki, and someone has seen the crazy, and they're like, it's woo-woo, it's crazy. And they always want to touch you, right? Hands. So when we go into a shelter or we introduce ourselves, we have to, and I hate to say this, and Kelly and I want to hear what you have to say about this too, is for me personally, and I didn't do this back then, when I went to the Oregon or the Silicon Valley Humane Society here I'm in California right now, so here in Silicon Valley. When I went there, I did say Reiki. I brought Kathleen's books, and I talked to Beth, the director, and she was very open to it, as long as I wasn't, and also I signed up to be a volunteer first. I think that's really important. And Kelly can talk more about that and why you really want to go volunteer and get the lay of the land. But anyway, but now if I did it again, I would say I would focus on the meditation part, because everyone understands meditation. Everyone knows the benefits of meditation. Meditation is very mainstream. And even back in 2008, meditation wasn't that mainstream. It like really like got amplified, and I don't know what amplified it. Maybe it was Deepak, who knows, but something amplified it. And now it's being done everywhere, hospital, schools, everywhere, right? So people get meditation, they understand it. And when you say I meditate with animals, they go, oh my God, that's so cool. What is that? What does that look like? What is that about? So now you have your foot in the door. And even though, you know, if you're part of SARA, we have like brochures and stuff that you can take in and like, hey, I'm part of this organization, the Shelter Animal Reiki Association. Even though there's Reiki in the name, they don't really put two and two together when you're talking about meditation. And then you can say, after you get buy-in, after you get interest, well, what I'm doing is called Animal Reiki, but the way we practice, it's not hands-on, it's not a hands-on healing system, it is a meditative practice. And then you can explain what happens when you meditate. You meditate, your energy becomes calm. Guess what? Animals, how do they communicate? Through energy. So if your energy is calm, you got a stressed out dog, stressed out cat, then you can tell them my energy helps to calm their energy. And you explain, maybe at first we won't see a big difference, but after a couple of weeks of me, you know, sharing this energy with your dog, with the dog or the cat, you'll start to see a difference. And I think that that's something too that we need to start incorporating, is telling them that they will start to see a difference. Because I think that traditionally we go in and we go, hey, can I offer this? And this is what I do. And they go, yeah. And then they forget about us, right? But if we say to them right away, you will start to see a difference in the animals. You will start to see that they become calmer. I think that us giving them that, guiding them, right? And it's really just kind of a mental thing. We want them to be aware that this will benefit their animals. And we don't have to be in the mix. We don't have to be interrupting anyone. And I know, Kelly, you want to talk a little bit about that. So I'd love to just turn it over to you to talk more about presenting.
Yeah, I think, you know, look, they don't want us to be in the way. They want everything to run smoothly. They've got enough going on. The staff doesn't want to be watching our every move. And so we have to go in there with this, you know, with an attitude of like, you know, I'm grateful to be here and this is an honor. And I am going to be as, you know, unintrusive as possible. And so, and I'm going to follow all the rules. I mean, even when I started going, there wasn't any orientation or anything. You're just
Oh,
like, go ahead. I mean, it really was backward. You know, it really. No, I was super lucky to be able to have that opportunity so easily. But now there's like an orientation and everything for the volunteers. But you know, if they tell me not to go in a room, I don't go in that room. If they tell me, you know, don't work with this animal, I don't work with that animal. I don't take anybody out of their kennel unless I ask, or sometimes they offer it. So I'm always mindful of how I'm presenting myself, because I'm representing SARA too. And I'm also representing, you know, the Animal Reiki.
yeah.
And I think, you know, for me, I try to explain it too, that, you know, it's the Reiki part of the Animal Reiki is my work. It's not the work on the animals. That's my work, so that I can be in a meditative state that is beneficial to everyone and the animals. So, I mean, I've had people who are volunteering with me, who were told not to go in certain areas, and they went. You know, they just took it upon themselves, like, I really want to go in this area, and so they're no longer there. So we have to really, and if we're bringing people in, we're responsible for those people too. So we have to, you know, be aware of that, because it reflects on us as well.
Mm-hmm.
um you know, if there's stuff that's going on, like they've had times where you know, they're just overwhelmed with a big hoarding situation and all kinds of animals in. I mean, one time they had a pig in one of the dog kennels. There's just so much stuff going on, and they were backed up with fishes and all of that. And so I would help with that, or I would, you know, mop the floor after the dog peed in the room, you know, anything like that that I can do to take the load off, change the toilet paper, you know, roll, or, you know, put another paper towel roll. So just being aware of the fact that most staff is super overwhelmed to begin with, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't need me to just pile on to that. So when I go in, I ask, you know, what, do you have any specific animals you'd like me to work with? If not, I'll just go my merry way. And over the years, they let me go back into ISO. They let me go back in, I'm in with the dogs and cats who are in the back rooms that aren't ready to be put up for adoption yet. They're in processing. And so that's, for me, it's it's really, it makes me feel like, they're happy with what's going on, and they trust me. And so I don't want to break that trust. I did actually have a cat early on who got out of the room. I was like, that's it. I'll never be back.
That's the reason why you have to volunteer, because you have to know what to do in those situations. That's so important. If you go in, and I have people who do this all the time, I just want to do Reiki. Well, that's great. But don't expect them to be like, oh, wow, we have this Reiki person. Oh, we're so lucky. They're not going to be, because one, what happens is they get people all the time that want to come in and be the hero. And guess what? After a couple months or something, they stop volunteering. So they're all burnt out on that, and that's what you have to really keep in your mind. These people are stressed. They're burnt out. They don't care, because they've been burned so many times. So you could say, hey, look, this is what I do. And do it quietly at first, right? Tell them this is what you're going to see, blah, 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 blah. And maybe they won't even care. They're like, yeah, we don't really care. Just whatever, go socialize with the animals. We don't care. But by being unobtrusive, like Kelly was saying, and by just being consistent and knowing the rules, right? Because when a cat gets out, like what Kelly experienced, you have to know what to do. You want to be a help, not a hindrance. But if you go in there with the attitude, I don't really care, all I'm going to do is do Reiki, and a cat gets out, now you're part of the problem. Now you have turned the staff's whole perception of animal Reiki around to, this is a negative. They don't even want to know the rules of the shelter. We don't want them here. And that creates a whole situation that could be avoided just by honoring the work that they're doing, going in and going through their whole rules, being as respectful and helpful as possible. Like Kelly said, that I was the same way. It's you help out anywhere and everywhere. Oh, there's laundry. There's always tons of laundry. Go in and start folding up laundry. Don't wait to be asked. If you know how to do something, I mean, obviously you don't want to do something that you're not trained to, but things like laundry, they always need help. And they were always so grateful when they would see me just folding laundry. And that creates really good juju. Then they look at you and they go, oh, I love her because she's always helping. And then they start to notice, wow, did you notice that dog that barks all the time, whenever she's around, that dog's quiet? And I know, Kelly, you've experienced that. Why don't you tell about when you were there at the shelter, what the ladies said?
I did. I actually had that. I was in with the intake dogs, the back kennel, and I was just sitting, doing some Reiki with them, and it got really quiet. And there were a couple of staff members around the corner that I couldn't see, but I could hear them, and they were like, I don't know what she does, but whenever she comes in, sits with the dogs, they get so quiet. So I think, something, you were saying, Leah, the other thing that we have to, probably just went right out of my brain. I don't know. There was something on my brain. I'm sure it'll come back.
About just being unobtrusive, or about volunteering, or about just being kind, or
oh, that was it. I mean, a lot of time there's a lot of turnover also in shelters, especially with the staff, because it's such a hard job. And I've been in there where there's all kinds of discontent going on with maybe one staff member. And it's really important too, to just stay out of all of that. Just, don't get into the gossip, don't get involved in the politics, and just do your work. And, I really, try to I don't push them, but I try to get the staff to recognize the benefits of just sitting for 5 or 10 minutes in a chair in the cat room with me or something. And sometimes they take me up on it, but a lot of times they're just too busy.
Yeah.
But we still just ask every time.
And also having a special day where you go in and you offer chair treatments so that people can understand. It could be like a Reiki awareness day, or just a meditation awareness day. You don't even have to call it Reiki, because some people get weird about it. They might know something negative about it and not want to do it, or they think they have to be on a massage table, which is so great because in our system, we have the chair treatment, and you can easily offer Reiki to the staff and volunteers by doing the chair treatment. And then they get to understand what the animals, like you said, that you touched on that earlier, Kelly, how the animals get to they get to understand what the animals are going through.
Yeah, yeah. And over the years, I've had the directors. There have been a couple of directors there since I started, and they have asked me to go ahead to if I would work on certain animals that they thought really needed some help, and so that's been for me felt really good because clearly they see there's a benefit. They may not be telling me that, but they clearly see there's something happening that's beneficial to the animals there.
Absolutely. So just so we can get more information out of you, Kelly, and we can share what we know, I'm going to open it up for questions. But before I do, we got a question from Barbara Deneau, who couldn't be here today, but she wanted to know, she said, again, going back to how do you bring up Reiki with shelters and rescues? And she has a few groups by her that are posting some cats that have been traumatized and stressed, and she wants to reach out to them to see if she can help. But she wants to make sure she approaches them the right way, right? You get one chance and you can't really blow it. There's a lot of pressure. So she said, I spoke to someone who's friends with one of the shelters, and I told her the LAL method, let animals lead method, is hands-free and is more of meditation with the animals. And she still thought it was a little out there. My concern is if I only have one shot to try to get in, I want to make sure I approach them and explain it in the best way possible. I know we've spoken about it. Okay. So I'll give my opinion, and then I'm going to let Kelly talk. So my opinion is what I said earlier. Talk about meditation. Talk about the benefits of meditation. Say, I'm a teacher. I'm trained to do this. I've been doing this for however many years you've been doing it. Even if you haven't been doing it long, don't be intimidated by that. You can even say, I'm learning this and it's amazing. It's incredible. And remember, like a lot of times we go to present, we are like, I have this great thing, blah, 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 and we're all like, right? You just go, hey, I know you're really busy. I don't know if you know much about meditation and how beneficial it is when you're stressed and how, and you can I would bring in what studies show. And we have stuff. In fact, I'm working on a resource page where you can have like links to studies where it shows how meditation is really beneficial to humans. But also, so we can, so you say that, blah, blah, blah. But then also it works with animals. And so you talk a little bit about that and, how you've learned that when we meditate, we bring our energy becomes calm, and it's really helpful for stressed out animals. So if I just sit and I meditate, actually what starts to happen is stressed out and dogs or cats that can't calm down start to calm down. And I would love to share this but I know that you're really busy. I mean, I would say I would start hitting all of the pain points first, saying, look, I don't need a special room. I can go, I can become a cat socializer and do it then. I just want to make sure that you're okay with it. What I'm doing doesn't cause harm. What I'm doing actually is really enhancing. And then even if you're not part of SARA, you can say, what I do is actually I'm part of a bigger group of animal Reiki, or you could say of animal meditators. And we actually do this around the world, and we do it in shelters around the world. And you can start to say, we have shelters in the UK and Canada, all across the US, who are incorporating these methods to help support their animals. Because, it's back in the day when Kelly and I were introducing ourselves, there wasn't SARA. And didn't have all these like shelters that were doing it. But now in today's age,
SARA was like 10 members, maybe.
Yeah. Oh my God. I think at the time it was so small, and we had Brighthaven. We didn't even have Remus yet in the UK. So, but now we have almost 100 shelters. Like Kelly, you could always reach out to Kelly. Kelly's got 6 shelters in Vermont. And, I'm sure that someone at Vermont, I know that Kristen at CARE would always talk to another fellow shelter and say, look, this is really beneficial for your animals. And then also in our brochure, in the SARA brochure, and we're happy to give that to you, even if you're not a member of SARA, you can give out this brochure and say, this is an organization that does this with shelters. And, I'm part of their community. You don't have to be an actual member. Membership in SARA is really beneficial if you want to be an official practitioner of SARA, or you want to be a teacher, right? But you can be a community member, or you can just be a supporter, or just be somebody that comes to these. But you can talk about SARA and say how we are a global organization, how that is our purpose, is to bring meditation techniques. And it says right on our website, give them our website. If you reach out via mail, just go, oh, and here you can learn more about shelter, Animal Reiki shelter meditation. by visiting their website. And on our website, we talk about it in a pretty innocuous way. I'll do a link in the recap and give you all the Shelter Animal Reiki Association brochure, because Kelly, I can't see any problem with giving it to everybody, because you're actually spreading the word about SARA. And if there's a problem and you do something wrong and they call us, we'll say, well, that person hasn't studied with us. You know what I mean? So making sure that if you're going to present and use the brochure, make sure that, you believe in our ethos and you support how we practice. But I think that, and I'm going to get to these questions in just a second. Thank you all so much for being in that, writing in the comments, because I know we've got some for Kelly here. But I think to finish Barbara's question, I think that it's just really important to hit the pain points of the shelter. I'm not going to need anything special. I'm not going to get in anyone's way. I'm going to be volunteering. And what I do actually helps support the animals so that they're more adoptable. And if you want to know more information, here's a website, here's a brochure. This is an organization that I fully support and that has been doing this. And this is the beautiful part. And I'm going to pat me and Kelly on the back. We've been doing this since 2008. It seems like just yesterday, but it's been 15 years. So we have authority. So when you go into shelters, you have authority that Kelly and I and Kathleen did not have. I mean, poor Kathleen, she was the freak before anybody, like people didn't even really know what Reiki was. So she had like a huge mountain to climb, but thankfully it's more mainstream. So Kelly, I know you have some more tips about that too, and then we'll get to the questions.
Yeah, so I am a big fan of just going in to volunteer first, for the main reason of, like, you might not like it. And so if you're going in representing SARA and you find out you can't do it after a month, that doesn't really look great for us. So so it's good to go in, see how it feels for you to be there. And I always laugh, like when I was working on getting a hospital program going, and we would be like, the woman who was helping me, palliative care nurse, would be like, just go in and hold their hand. so then it was like that. You go in, you sit in the cat room, and you're basically socializing the cats. And so as you're doing the socialization, you just meditate. And so, they start to see, wow, the cats are really, they're so quiet when she's in there, or they're stretched out when he's in there, whatever. So, or the dogs get really quiet when they're out, they come back from a walk with this person. So there are ways that we can be Reiki. Well, we should always be being Reiki, but we have ways where we can stop and take some meditative breaths as we're going on a walk, or we can be in that meditation with the dog on the walk, or we can sit and do some socializing with the cat and doing our breathing. So there are ways that we can incorporate it into mundane things that we might do as a volunteer. And that also gives us some time to, really see how we feel about going in, and if we're comfortable, and if we feel like it's too, we're too emotional or anything like that. So we don't want to start and then stop. I mean, I think that's really important for SARA, especially, that we don't have a bunch of people starting and stopping at shelters. Oh, this is fun for a month and then I'm not going anymore. And you touched on that, Leah.
I mean, anytime you're going to volunteer, make sure that you're going to volunteer for at least 6 months. Make sure that you have, and obviously life happens and things happen. Like, I had to move unexpectedly in April to California, so obviously things happen where you have to stop volunteering. But, make sure that that is your intention. And again, don't be discouraged if they aren't supportive right away. It's going to take them some time. You have to prove yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely zero wrong with that. One of my students contacted me and she goes, oh, I want to offer Reiki at this horse rescue, but they were so rude to me. They were rude when they got back to me. And the horse rescue was like an hour from her, and she didn't even know how much she'd be able to go. And it's kind of, so I had to counsel her and say, hey, first of all, they're rude because they're short. They don't have staff, and sometimes if that happens, it's the universe saying, absolutely not, do not go here. And so as she's complaining to me, saying, oh, it's too far. And I mean, she wasn't complaining. She was just giving me the facts. It was kind of like, that doesn't sound like it's the best place for you. So then I think she was disappointed, but then like a week later, she saw a plea from her, kind of like what Barbara saw, where there was stressed out animals at a local shelter. And she went and she talked to the woman who runs it, or she had a friend there, and they were all open to it. So, when you get a no, that's just the universe saying this isn't right for you. Or use your intuition. Sometimes it's like, no, I'm not sure. That's just we don't know yet, right? But if they're rude, like she got from this horse rescue, and they're like, absolutely not, we don't believe in this, we don't want it, then you just say, okay, thank you. Everybody is going to be doing their own thing, and you never want to force it. So Kelly, T says that she's very interested in taking your level 1 class in January. So
Nice.
yeah,
Looking forward to having you join me.
Yeah, and she wants to know if there's any prerequisites.
No, we're starting right from scratch, so you don't need to have any human Reiki experience, or animal Reiki experience, or or anything like that. So it's right from scratch. You get all the basics right in the beginning of class, and we get you started on practicing with animals right away.
And you're doing a level 1 in January, and then a level 2 and 3 as well?
Yeah,
okay.
All 3.
Great. And so if you want to learn more about Kelly, heartsongreiki.com. Heartsong.com.
Now, those are all online. So
yeah, all online classes, not in person. So then Jemmy's asking, do you oh wait a second, Lisa said something really funny. She said, hey, I'm hippy dippy. We're all kind of hippy dippy.
My people.
Right, we're all kind of hippy dippy. But unfortunately the hippy dippies get a bad rap. So yeah, acknowledge that. So Jemmy says, do you recommend starting as regular volunteer, but just explain that when you have time to socialize with animals, you will meditate with them, practice Reiki, or just say you want to focus on Reiki, but will help with anything? I would do the first. I don't know what you have to say about that, Kelly, but I would be a regular volunteer first, because again, like Kelly said, right? Kelly, the lay of the land. So if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, I actually had to just redo my volunteer application, because I think they have a new coordinator, and on the application it asks, do you have any special skills? So I think a lot of them want to know that, if you have any special skills that you can offer. And so I was like, dog walk, cat socialize, and Reiki, but they know me, so they already know I'm doing it. But I think probably if you're going to be volunteering and you have to fill out an application or do an orientation, that's a time where you could mention, I meditate with animals, and I belong to this organization that brings meditation and into the shelters.
And don't forget, if you want to be a Shelter Animal Reiki Association member and you haven't studied the Let Animals Lead way yet, you can join at the community supporter level for $50 for the year, and you get invited to all of the meetings, and you get access to things like the brochure and other things like that. And then T said, I already volunteer at a shelter. Is it even necessary to tell the staff what you are doing? I'm not certified, but I just meditate with the animals, and I think I am seeing a difference. I would say if they ask, then, if they say, oh, what are you doing? Then I would say, oh, I meditate with animals. I don't think you need to say anything, because again, we're not causing harm. We're not trying to change anything. We're just bringing our beautiful, calm energy, and it's balancing it. So I don't know what you want to say about that, Kelly.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between what we do with Let Animals Lead and Reiki, right? Because there are a lot of schools of Reiki and animal Reiki that are like, I can touch the animal, we know that, right? So there's a different approach, and our approach is completely hands-off. It's a fear-free approach, and so very much in alignment with that, and shelters love that. Right. So if we're not going in there and like, I'm gonna put my hands on this animal and all of that, then there's really, I don't think there's any reason to really even say anything. Just if they do ask you, I'm meditating with the animals, I'm feeling calm, and it helps them to calm too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good advice. And again, also I think, Kelly, don't you, like, when you go in there, just be confident. Be confident with what you have to offer. Because if you're like, well, I do this, yeah, I think it works, they're going to go, no. But if you're all, yeah, this is what I do. It's worked with animals all over the world. It brings peace. You might not see something right away, but you will see something. You will notice a difference after, a week or two of me doing, sharing meditation with the animals. You're going to notice something. And I think that that's something that we really haven't focused on much, is telling the people you will notice, and that comes with confidence. And I think that that's also why the shelters are a little more lackadaisical with some of our members, because we're not saying to the shelter, look, you are going to see a difference. This is very effective. And just that confidence that what you've experienced, what will happen. It doesn't matter that they don't see it right away. Be confident. Even if they say, well, I don't know, we saw you work with that animal and it didn't seem like calm down. Just wait. We have to give him time. He doesn't know me. This animal doesn't know me. But I'll continue meditating with him, and then you will notice something. So I think that just like setting up the expectation, but also setting up the benefit and the goal and the outcome of that is really important.
Yeah. And also, they want the best for the animals. They want them happy. They want them out of there. And
Right.
so, as long as we're not doing anything to interfere with that, and I think they start to see that it's a very peaceful, quiet energy. They see me, they go walk by, they see me sitting in the cat room, just quietly meditating, and they're very they're trying not to interrupt me. They're like, "Oh, I'm really sorry," and they're walking by, and it's like, "It's fine, no problem." So, they really just want the best for the animals. They want them out of there as quickly as possible, and they get to see that happens.
Yeah. And you brought up a really good point. When they come in, because this would happen to me at the Silicon Humane Society, an animal needs to be shown or somebody wants to see him and they're going to interrupt your session. No big deal. Yep, not a problem. Don't ever act like, well, okay, I'm in the middle of this, or feel like the animal isn't going to get the full thing. Just set your intention. You're still going to continue the connection, the energy, just allow them to go. There's a really interesting, Kelly and I were watching this one YouTube with an animal Reiki lady, and she's all about vets and hospitals. And she was talking about offering, how the vets let her come into the surgery room to offer Reiki to the animals, which is very effective, right? I know that Allison, who's also a director at SARA, she was in India at a shelter where Kelly and she have trained the staff and practice. And they don't have the same kind of medicines that we do in the United States. They only have ketamine for the dogs. And when they go to like cut off their, amputate their limbs and things like that. And so Allison offered Reiki during the entire surgery. And the vet noted that the animal's vitals stayed steady the entire time, which is unheard of. And then after the surgery, the dog jumped up and jumped off the table and wasn't screaming in pain, which also doesn't happen. So Reiki can really bring a lot to animals who are going through surgery. But this woman was in the surgery room and she talked about in her interview how, sometimes she has to move to get out of the way. And I'm thinking, what are you doing in there? Don't make it hard for surgeons as they're doing surgery to have to move around you. If there's not enough space for you to stand out of the way, don't go in there. We all know that, you can't say distance works and go, oh, but I have to be right in here in the surgery room and I have to be getting in all of your way. That makes zero sense and actually weakens your whole point that, it's meditation and it's energy and, distance works. Just sit outside the surgery room, sit outside the office, sit outside the enclosure. Like, if there's a really aggressive dog and that dog, can't be touched, well, you are going to go in with that dog. You're going to sit outside the enclosure. So just always be aware of what you're doing, your presence, and is it enhancing or is it going to create issues? It's an ego thing to be invited into the surgery room. And I'm sure that they're very grateful for the energy, but she needs to make it even easier on the vets by saying, you know what, I don't have to be in this room. I'm going to sit right outside and the results are going to be the same. Right. And just like really clarifying that. And again, that comes with confidence and that comes in a belief in yourself too. And so Kelly, I don't know if you want to add more about that.
No, I totally agree with that. And, just us getting in the way is not helping anybody.
Mm-mm.
And it just, she was lucky, I think that, it wasn't an issue, but yeah, I'm all about like staying out of everybody's way, letting them do their job and just being in the background.
Yeah. And then Anne says, what and how we act is a reflection on all of us, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
remember, I shared with all of you that San Francisco SPCA didn't want Reiki in there because someone had come in, a Reiki animal communicator, and started telling people, oh, the animals don't want this, they don't want that, da, da, da. And of course they don't want someone, of course they're going to be against animal Reiki, which is why in SARA and in the Let Animals Lead method, we always keep animal communication separate from animal Reiki, so that there is a clear line on what is what, and we're not confusing the shelters. Because I know that there's practitioners, they go in and they're practicing Reiki and they come out and go, oh my gosh, this is what the animal told me, blah, blah. And then the shelter's like, oh, so you get messages, but then you have someone like me that goes in there and they're like, so what did you get? I'm like, what do you mean, what did I get? Nothing. I'm just meditating. Oh, well, the last person said this, and this. Well, the last person was psychic and I'm not, and that is an animal Reiki, that's animal communication, so we don't want to muddy the waters. We always want to keep it really clean and separate. So just really quick, because we're coming down to time and I want to give us enough time for a meditation as well. But Lisa asks, so going back to UT, I don't know if we clearly answered your question, but you're saying you don't need to tell the staff what you're doing unless they ask, and then you can say I meditate. And then also I think T said, how do I get the precepts that we speak of? I think the precepts are in the Reiki for Dogs book, if I'm not mistaken. I know the precepts are in the 21-day meditation challenge that Kathleen has. So that's a really great book, T, to order the 21-day meditation, because it goes through the precepts and you really get a deep understanding of what they are and what they mean. So I would highly recommend that. And then also Healing Virtues might have it. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think you can, if you just want to see what they are, just for today, do not anger, do not worry, be humble, be honest, be compassionate. But there are so many versions out there, but you can just Google Reiki precept and you'll get a bunch of versions depending on where they came from. But we have, we're focusing on them a lot in our classes too.
Absolutely.
It's a foundation of our practice.
Yeah. And you will definitely, if you study with any of us, the precepts are a foundational teaching. And then, so Lisa asked, how does she get the brochure? And in your community member, it should be downloadable in the member site, Lisa, but I can get that to you. And again, I'll put a link that all of you can see the brochure. It's a beautiful brochure. And there also are testimonials from 3 different shelters in there. So that's where the power of the brochure lies, is that you have validation from other shelters that are saying, hey, we use this and this is amazing, right? And the brochure also describes what we do, which is basically meditation and what it does. So the brochure is really quite amazing. And really, you can't, this is why I don't think it's a problem to give to anybody in the public, is because you can take that brochure to anywhere, but if you're not practicing the Let Animals Lead method, then the brochure isn't even going to back up what you're doing. And they're going to go, well, wait a minute, you gave me this brochure that said this, but you're doing this. So where's the disconnect, right? So that's why I don't feel like there's any issue with us sharing that. And then, Lisa would like a link to your class. Hello, Susan. So good to see you. And so I think that's all the comments. But if anyone else has a really quick question before we go to our meditation, I can let Kelly answer that. And Kelly, I'm so grateful that you came, and I hope you'll come again. I want to keep up this kind of series on animal shelters because there's so many questions. And I know a lot of you feel a little bit insecure, and it's totally understandable because we're going there doing something that is completely different. Nobody else is really doing this. And so we've all been there. Kelly and I can completely relate to feeling like the freak. And we all know Kathleen can. She was the biggest freak when she was out there doing it. But you can see she got so much support, right? It's a little engine that could attitude. She got so much support from a man. Oh God, what was the woman's name? And she's so amazing. I had the biggest crush on her. Is it Amanda? At the Berkeley Animal Control. I remember when I met her, I was like, oh my God. She's so amazing. She is just like the most amazing woman. But, once she saw how the animals were reacting to Kathleen, she was completely in. And you are going to find those people that are completely 100% in. And then you're going to find the people that are like, I don't know, maybe not. So if we don't have any more questions, does anyone?
I just wanted to add one thing.
Yeah, please.
One thing that I love about working in the shelter, it really does teach us how to be compassionate, because we've got to let go of why the animals are there,
Yeah.
why they're in the condition they're in. And that's a real challenge a lot of times. So it's, if you want to learn, if you want to practice your ability to be compassionate, that's a place to do it. Just be prepared, right? Just be prepared, do your practice and be ready.
I think that's really great advice. I mean, I think that sometimes we go in with the mindset that we're offering something really great and they all need to be behind it, but that's not the reality. And we really have to know that we lead by example. And so if we can let go of those judgments and even the insecurities, right? You're going to be sitting there, you're going to feel awkward. It's okay. Because like, as we said at the very beginning of the call, if you don't do it, who will? And that was something that Kathleen has said in every single class. It's her mantra. If you don't do it, who will? And it's a really important thing to keep in the back of your mind, especially if you don't want to go volunteer. You're like, well, if I don't do it, who will? Right. And so just really keeping that and being strong and knowing that you have a whole community behind you. You can come here and you can say, oh my God, I was so embarrassed. And it's like, it's okay. We've all been there. We've all been embarrassed. We've all had these weird things happen and it's okay. And we've all been the weird person, but it's, you know what, this weirdness works and it brings a lot of peace. And I promise you, and I know Kelly, you can echo this, once you're in there and once you're really like consistent and they start seeing that, oh, wow, the animals actually are a little bit calmer around her, that's when you can start talking more about what you're doing and start sharing it more. I did at the Oregon Humane Society, actually Oregon Humane Society. And it wasn't just because of Beth. I volunteered in the hospital. And so they would let me sit in the recovery room and just offer Reiki. But then they started saying, oh, could you, they didn't understand it was going, could you sit in front of this animal? But also we did our NIH study using the Silicon Valley Humane Society. So they, it took them almost 3 years, but they were really supportive. And I had a lot of people going. But then sadly, I moved and couldn't, and then my students kind of petered out. And so the whole program kind of ended up dying. And that backs up what we were saying before, right? Somebody comes in, they're offering this great thing, and then blah, 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 blah. It all goes away. So just know that when you go to volunteer. And then T says, thank you so much. The self-love and self-work realization has been very important to me to separate the ego from truly wanting to help. Exactly. That's so important, T. That's such a great realization for you. And again, that's where the precepts really come in and help us tamper our ego, because a lot of times we want to get really upset, especially with the politics. Don't you think, Kelly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's really easy to get caught up in that. So we have to be, mindful of when we're getting drawn in and just being neutral, being Switzerland.
Right. You have to be Switzerland. And remember, it's okay. It doesn't matter. You don't have to change anything. And Reiki will actually help heal things. So just keep offering Reiki. So Olive says, Kelly and Leah, I so appreciate your insights regarding how to present yourself at the shelter. Thank you so much. You're welcome. And then Anne says, so glad we have this support system in LAL. It gives me so much confidence to continue when I move to Panama next month. Oh yeah. I think we have somebody in Panama too. New shelters to connect to the animals through. Thanks for these sessions to expand the consciousness. You're welcome. And I'm so glad that all of you are here, and we're really grateful. I know Kelly and I both, that all of you want to support the animals at the shelter. They're really the animals that need us the most. Yes, the domestic animals, I mean, the people that live in homes and everything do need us, but these shelter animals, it just gives them a leg up, because I remember, I would work with animals that had been there months, and then they get Reiki for a couple of weeks and boom, they get adopted. And I know, Kelly, you've experienced that like time and time again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing. You go in and, you're really connecting to an animal. The next week you go, oh, they're not there. So,
Yeah.
that's always good news for us. And every time I finish, I'm like, hope I don't see you next week. I go,
Right. And Carolyn,
"Oh."
thank you so much for coming. We're so glad you came and we're so glad you enjoyed it. And we hope you will come again because we do talk about all things Animal Reiki. This one we talked more. We usually take a lot more questions, but this was a really important subject. And we're going to have Kelly back more frequently to talk about shelter in our Animal Reiki in the shelters. Thank you so much, Jemmy. We really appreciate seeing you. So let's do our meditation really quickly. We will all just kind of get nice and comfortable. We're going to go into gacho or prayer pose, bring our hands together. It's bringing the two sides together, just left and right, wisdom and compassion at our heart. And we close our eyes to close out all outward distractions. And just doing a couple really nice deep breaths in and then out through your mouth to release any tension you're holding on to. And we set our intention that we're open to receive whatever it is that we need most at this moment in time. And we set our intention to hold space for all sentient beings. And if you want to take a moment to invite any animals, people, or situations into the beautiful circle for extra support, please do that now. And now let's put our hands together. You're going to cup your hands into a little bowl and you're going to envision a beautiful bright light into your hands. And this is the light of love and compassion. And we're just going to say to the globe, all is well. And we're going to bring this globe of light into our belly and feel the light radiating at your belly, filling the whole bottom half of your body with light and love. This light and love stabilizes you, creates inner strength, and allows you to deal with difficult situations and difficult times with strength and love and compassion. And whenever you're ready, cup your hands again and envision a beautiful globe of light. And again, see this love, this light of love and compassion, and say in the globe, all is well. And bring that feeling and that light into your heart. And when this beautiful light hits your heart, feel your heart expand and open up. This light heals all heartache and expands you. And now we envision a globe of light again. And we say, all is well. And we bring this light into our third eye, into our mind, and feel this beautiful light healing all trauma, all loneliness, all hurts. And feel your mind become expansive. Feel your body becoming light. And bring your hands into your lap and envision the light at your belly connecting to the light at your heart. And the light at your heart connecting to your mind. The light of these three energy centers creates a beautiful beam of light within you. This is your own true love and light. It is the perfect essence of you. It is who you are at your core. And as you breathe in and out, the light within you becomes brighter and brighter, starts to fill your entire body, filling every cell of your being with light and love. And as you breathe in and out, your love and light starts to seep out into the space around you until you become a beautiful globe of light. You are the light of love, the light of compassion, the light of joy. And this is the light the animals connect with. This is the light that the animals feel peace and connection with. And if you like, bring to mind an animal you love deeply and envision your light merging with theirs and becoming one. And just sit in this space and breathe deeply and allow yourself to just sink into that feeling of compassion for yourself, of love for yourself and all around you, of joy. When we have no worry and we have no anger, we can be joyful. And we can know deep in our heart that all is well. And whenever you're ready, bring your hands into Gasho. And just give thanks to yourself for being here. And thanks to all who joined you. Whenever you're ready, you can bring your hands face up or face down into your lap. Sorry, I have a cold, so that wasn't a very good meditation, but I did my best. I'm going to stop this recording.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And